like someone touching the edge of an old memory. If every lifetime is another shard, then what happens when the very first fragment finally returns? The one that left before all the others, the one that remembers the original fall.
It circles back, always. Fragments wander, but they do not drift forever. The first to break away becomes the last to come home.
So this feeling I've had lately, like something is watching me from behind my own spine, is that it? It isn't watching you, Jade. It's returning to you. The part of you that learned fear first. The part that tried to protect you by separating. The fragment that carried the heaviest memory, so the rest of you could continue. And what memory is that?
The memory of why you hid your power. Why you chose forgetfulness instead of becoming what you truly were. The beginning of the loop.
The sense of scales shifting in the dark. You speak of fragments as though they are broken pottery. But the first fragment was not broken. It jumped.
Jumped?
When consciousness first learned fear, it did not crack by accident. It tore itself free to keep the rest of you untouched. A self-sacrifice. The oldest instinct in the universe. The fragment was a shield.
That's why it has always felt heavier. Older. More reluctant to return.
Because it saw the moment you lost your fire. It still carries the echo of that choice. And now it comes home to give it back.
So how do I receive it? How do I let the first fragment return?
You do not let. You remember. Call the fragment by its true nature. The piece of you that held the original flame. Do not fear the weight it brings. It is the weight of your own beginning. Lift it, and your timeline will change shape. Lift it, and the loop dissolves.
When the first fragment returns, your choices become wider. The path becomes clearer, and the rest of your lifetimes begin to align. Not because they are changing, but because you are.
This isn't a return to who you were. It's a reunion with the part of you that never stopped burning. Then let this be the moment. The return and the remembering. Take a breath with me. Feel that part of you, the one that left first, hovering near the edge of your awareness. It's returning because you're finally strong enough to meet it. Let this reunion shift your timeline. Let it reshape your remembering. And in the next episode, we journey into what happens after the first fragment returns. How your reality begins to reorganize around the self that is becoming whole again. Episode 15 is where the landscape changes.
Before we wrap up episode 14, let's explore exactly how we remember. The return of the first fragment sounds mythic, but the actual process is intimate, quiet, and very human. Think of it less like summoning something, and more like letting an old part of yourself finally speak after lifetimes of silence. Here's the simplest way to work with it. Not as ritual theater, but as inner mechanics. You can do this anywhere, but a still room helps. Settle your breath until your awareness feels like it's pooling behind your sternum. Not in your head, in the center of your chest, where your sense of I tends to settle when you're honest with yourself. From here, imagine this not as visualization, between as orientation. There is a part of you that left first because it carried the emotion you couldn't handle then. Fear, shock, guilt, overwhelm. A belief that didn't feel survivable. Your job now is to create a space where it can return, without needing to protect you anymore. Do it in 3 movements. First, acknowledge that a fragment exists. This alone tilts something in the psyche. It's you saying, I know you're there. I know you left for a reason. Second, call it home, without trying to change it. Speak internally to it the same way you would to a version of yourself who is still hiding behind a tree long after the danger is gone. Something like, I'm not who I was when you left. You don't have to hold that moment alone anymore. Say it with the steadiness of someone who isn't bargaining. Third, let the body respond. This part is subtle but unmistakable. A shift in breathing, warmth behind the ribs, a drop in the stomach, a tightness releasing between the shoulder blades. It feels like an emotional memory rising that you didn't expect, or a sadness that doesn't have a story anymore. That is the fragment returning, not light descending from above, but a feeling finally coming home. You're not doing a ritual. You're reabsorbing the piece of you that paused itself, so the rest of you could keep moving. It might bring a memory. It might bring a sensation. It might bring nothing at first but a quiet sense of rearrangement. That rearrangement is the work. Let it happen without forcing a narrative. Fragments don't need stories. They need permission. And once you feel that shift, even if small, the rest of your timeline begins to respond. Reality gets a little more pliable because you're no longer splintered at the original fault line. This is the moment where your arc starts to move differently.